look great, Brad.
Hi there. Welcome back to Paint It Forward, a discussion series with creatives and artists around creative ideas and communities around the city of Milwaukee. This is a program of Artists Working in Education, or AWE, and we are hosted at the Washington Park Media Center, a hub for media training, media. Let me check my notes because I always get this bad. Media production, of course, and media strategy. And we have a kind of a special grouping tonight. It's our first panel discussion, so bear with us if this is something a little different. We are joined by four different people who will be speaking to the idea of creative careers, creative opportunities, and what people can do to take their creativity to the next level in terms of employment, in terms of study, or just, we're going to see where the conversation goes because we are in a room full of creatives. We'd like to thank the Milwaukee Arts Board for helping us make this possible. And my first question that I always ask is, how do you define you? And that's my way of letting you all introduce yourselves in the way that you feel best fit with the identities, with the backgrounds, with the connections that you want to share out today. As a panel, we're not quite sure who's going to go first. So is anybody feeling especially talkative today?
Go for it. So I do have a name. My name is Matt Sothen. If I were to define myself in the broadest of professional terms, as well as just like what I feel like my vocation is as a person, I'm a creative advocate. I went to art and design school. That's going to be relevant to this conversation. I studied art and design. I consider myself an artist as well, but I have found myself spread far and wide across all things creative. And so at the end of the day, what I feel like I am here to do is get people excited about creativity. And when it's just me, I get excited about creativity. Thank you.
Excellent.
I think we have established an order then here. My name is Anitra Riley. I, generally speaking, I love the way that you ask the question because it's not necessarily immediately. I manage community impact at Manpower Group, but it's who we are and how we identify. And that's important to me because I am just a lady, right? I'm just a lady in Milwaukee that loves the city and that loves community and that loves creativity and loves connection. And so it's important to me that as I also represent Manpower and Community Impact, Manpower Group is a staffing company. And so as we afford jobs and we afford opportunity, that career, that connection, that creativity goes into how to position that for a career. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I'm just a lady who loves the city.
Hello. These answers are making me feel so inspired. My name is Kim Otzelberger. I like to define myself as a reckless optimist and a creative professional. I've been doing creative stuff all of my life. I think I was born with a pencil in my hand. If you asked me 4 years ago, I would have said that I was a filmmaker. So I like to say I'm one of the biggest film buffs around. I have a goal to watch 100 new movies every year. This year, I'm at 75. Wow. So I'm not going to catch myself watching my last movie at midnight on New Year's this year. But professionally, I'm here representing Alverno College. I'm an alum. I now work for the institution. It's where I really discovered myself.
or a religious figure from Christianity, which is probably equally as amazing. Excellent, thank you. Anitra, I believe you're up next if we're going on.
Creativity for me is just it's just the connection to who we are as human beings. There is just there are all these different lanes of creativity. Some folks dance, some folks write, some folks paint, some folks dress. Some some folks it's just creativity is all the things. And so what I love is that for me, creativity is just connection. I love to celebrate the difference in people and the differences that they bring forward. And so when I think about creativity, it's just like, I'm walking up to folks and I'm like, that's good. Your hair is good, and just smiling. And so and even in a smile that creativity to me is to create something not there, create a connection with a stranger. That's creativity, knowing that a smile can change folks. So creativity for me personally is fashion, but creativity just is creating a thing that is not there, and it can be anything.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one to go last on. But we just did something really cool, which I think will end up being my point, is that the definition of creativity can be so expansive and perhaps even infinite, which is actually kind of beautiful. It's like this idea of making something, well, hey, the word itself, the definition of this word itself is completely expansive. So for me, I came to Milwaukee to go to art and design school, because at that time, perhaps I had a narrower definition of creativity. I loved making art. I loved drawing and painting. When I learned that art and design schools were these things, I knew that's where I had to go. So I went, and I continued to fall in love with drawing and painting, and have since done quite a bit of that. But as an adult, my creative practice, my creative discipline, I think that's going to be an important word later on, has ebbed and flowed, because life is complicated and there's lots of things going on, right? And what I've learned to sort of accept and later embrace is that my creativity does not stop just because I'm not bringing an easel out into the woods, or just because I'm not going into the basement anymore and making fun pictures. Creativity is synonymous with problem solving. It's how you get out of bed in the morning and get somewhere on time. It's the relationships you cultivate. Children, right? I've got 2 teenagers at home. I mean, that has taught me so much about myself and how to manage time and how to manage other people's times and things like that. So yeah, creativity just never stops defining itself, which is also its own creative problem to solve. How's that?
That's beautiful.
Okay.
And I appreciate that, because I had a hunch that you all would have these expansive views of creativity and of creative pursuits, because what I've seen happen is so many people discount their own creativity, right? You hear art, you hear creativity, you have an image in your mind. But that shouldn't stop people from getting creative. That shouldn't stop people from recognizing their creativity. And I truly believe that creativity is a human right. It's something that we all have. It gets exercised in different ways, but when you tell yourself no, when you tell yourself you're not creative, you stop that process. You don't have that creative problem solving vibe. You don't feel like you're capable of these things. So whether it's gardening, whether it's, fashion, whether it's like time management, right? Like we all have to get creative with things. So let's embrace that. Let's highlight that. Let's accept and acknowledge that, and the diversity of creativity too. So thank you all for those amazing responses. I think we hit the jackpot with our panel today. The other thing that I picked up on too, and something that I feel like we all encounter a lot, is it's a pro and it's a con when it comes to creativity in some ways, the work ethic, right? I think there's definitely a Midwestern work ethic. Not saying that doesn't exist elsewhere in the world, elsewhere in the United States of America, but there's something that is distinctly pragmatic, I think, about a city with an industrial past, or that draws people in who are looking for those things. We talked a little bit about our upbringing, like being surrounded by things like creativity or painting or drawing. But again, I think there's a pro and a con to that. Sometimes it can be hard to say why creativity, why art and design, why take the extra time to do the thing that seems like it's extra, right? You all have backgrounds in creativity, you all practice creativity, you all work in creativity. Can you share something, and this is off script, that you think is so fundamental and pragmatic about creativity? Where have you seen creativity be the thing that is necessary in the work that you do or have done throughout your lives?
I'll try to make this quick, and I hope it's relevant, because that is definitely something I have run into. It's like, is this the best use of my time? What is this? What problem does this picture solve? Right. And I'll talk to students about this too, is that I think if we're being really candid and we're being really sincere when we're creating, our work has a way of showing us and having it becomes a conversation.
Yeah.
So you're not just making something, you're getting somewhere else. You're getting somewhere else in your practice. You're getting somewhere else in your development as a person, in the vocabulary that you're developing with what you're trying to say in this moment. Culturally, there is always value in doing something, even if that thing you're doing ends up at the bottom of the pile. The fact that you got that exchange of energy came out means the next time you go to it, or the next time you're in a conversation or a panel or something like this, you made that effort. You made that step further as a creative person.
We're both like,
I know.
Creatives are polite.
That's right. Go ahead.
I think I just wanted to add, because I really loved how you referenced that it's a conversation. I love meditation. I'm a very mindful person. So I think I would add, like, creativity and creating art is that mindfulness practice. Sometimes you need that release, like to just create that drawing, create that painting, and then all of a sudden your brain starts turning and working, and click, you know exactly how to solve the problem at work.
Yeah, I'd even add, I absolutely agree with the both of you. I would even add that for me, I have a project management background. And so when I think about creativity and how that helps us solve problems, I have a boss that says things like, how do we get to yes? And in the project management space, it's all about collaboration. It's all about partnerships. It's all about, 50 of us bringing one thing to fruition, so to speak. And so, and we're all geniuses, right? And so it's like, oh, no, my way, it's my way, it's my way. It's the highway, actually. Yeah. So, or the highway. But being that creativity is always inspiring me toward, okay, how do we get all of these alphas who are all right to come together so we can move this forward? That creativity helps me to also be inspired by community and collaboration versus competition, because oftentimes in project management or for myself as I don't want to say event player on the mic, because that ain't the message I'm putting out, but as I'm organizing different events, the calendar is just so much going on in the community. There's so many things to choose from. And there is this instinctive calendar competition that has to happen. But again, that creativity is like not competition, but community. Yeah. How can we come together? How can we support one another? And so when I think about how creativity helps me to solve problems, I'm always thinking about how can we turn this into a yes? How can we turn this into the best solution? How can we solve this problem? How can we look at this differently? And I think creativity helps us to see things that way.
And I would echo and say that exact same conversation happens in my classrooms. My classrooms are places for conversation, for collaboration. Former student and I were just talking about this. I'm not going to go in the classroom and say it's my way. Everyone's going to be miserable. And they're all going to be terrible. I want to see what 20 artists can create and what we can create when they lift each other up and support each other. So for me, in answering your question, creativity is everything. Period. It's the driving factor of how I got here. I'm not going to wake up every day and go be a banker. It's not for me. I want to be doing what I'm doing because I love it. And it's in every pore, everything.
And I'll even add to that was a great point, because I think that when we think about when we get up in the morning and it's like, I want to be doing the thing for work that I love doing, because when you think about creativity or whatever it is that we love doing, once it turns into work, we spend so much time working. 8 to 5 is like, what 8 to 5? I thought it was like 8 to 8. Have I been fooled? Am I being pranked? I thought it was 8 to 8. We spend so much time working that it's so important to find the thing that you love that keeps you full, because that cup has got to overflow,
Mhm.
because working is just, never ending.
Yeah.
So that's important.
Well, and that's a really great segue into the conversation, the topics about, what it is a person who is new to pursuing creativity and developing their creativity can do. Where do you find it, right? So all of these conversations are prefaced on the fact that there is no one right path, that the way that worked for each of us, or the way that we're still navigating, I should say, it's a work in progress constantly, isn't going to fit everybody. And what I love about who you all are representing and what you bring to your 9 to 5 or 9 to 9, what have you, is that you're providing opportunities, right? And as those individuals providing those opportunities, let's talk a little bit about what you have to offer and what it is you look for. The idea of working with individuals, identifying individual drives, motivations, passions, right? Who's going to enter into this pipeline that y'all are offering and find that light at the end of the tunnel and not have it turn into that, oh my gosh, the alarm's going off. What am I doing with my life moment that some people exist in every single day because maybe they didn't know what was out there for them. Creativity, art and design, those type of folks, those type of people might have a little more passion towards what they're doing, but at the same time, it's so individualized, like we've been discussing, that it can be hard to say, okay, well, I want to do this, so I'm going to put my little, I like to think of the Plinko chip, right? I'm going to put it in here, it's going to drop down to jackpot, right?
Yeah.
But you're bouncing all around. So how is it that you all help people find the lane that's going to help them navigate that path, and what it is you're looking for, or who thrives in those environments that you all offer?
I was about to say,
Okay.
I saw you reaching for a mic.
I'm just jumping out of my chair here. Again, I manage community impact for Manpower Group, which is a global staffing organization, and we connect people to jobs. And my best advice that I learned over time and that I share so much is embrace the zigzag. And that is because when we were coming up, it was all about the vertical climb. It was get into a profession, get into an industry, and climb the ladder. And there was less appreciation for if life was lifing, and we get set back. It's like, oh my God, it's a blow. Our families look at us like we're all in panic. Our families look at us in panic. Our friends look at us in panic, like, oh my God, what are you going to do? And it just creates this false sense of failure. But if we look at that today, it's all about the zigzag. It's like opportunities are everywhere, and it's just not. And it's like, oh my God, I used to be a teacher, and now you wouldn't believe it, I'm a painter, and oh my God, and I used to be, and now I'm a massage therapist, and it's like that zigzag is so important. And so when I think about that, I always think about at Manpower Group, we have all these different training opportunities, and it is an opportunity for us to take our candidates who are reskilling, upskilling, and figure out, what have you done? What do you want to do? What are you great at? Leaning into their zigzag, and then helping them find their way to their next job, into their ideal career. And it's all about the zigzag. And then you can climb the ladder a little bit, but it is all about embracing the zigzag.
I think you need to put that on a t-shirt.
Embrace the
Embrace
zigzag.
the
Yeah, that's
zigzag.
Manpower Groups. Don't get listen. That's Manpower Groups. Embrace the zigzag. Absolutely.
And I, to sort of echo that, encourage students for that zigzag, but at a very young age. And I find myself really privileged in my position at the university because I go into local high schools. I connect with students, and I know, as artists, this happened to us a lot, to get us into art school. I get to see their portfolio. I get to hear what they're talking about. But more importantly, I get to hear their very real fears of not being successful, of not having families support them, of not feeling like they're going to have anything. And I can genuinely connect with them. I didn't have a father that supported me to go to art school. I didn't think I would make it. And I took a long time to get to art school. Eventually I did. But I have this opportunity to talk to these kids. And I think it's like your conversation with your art. It's a huge degree of listening, of not telling them what to do, but of sitting there actively listening. Again, it's a creative act, connecting, and just seeing what they want to do and letting them know what these opportunities are. And that's why I'm so thankful to be a part of the panel, because I don't think even in Milwaukee, a lot of people understand Peck School of the Arts is a fantastic art school. And it's not a private school. It's not going to cost upwards of 25, 35, 45,000 a year. Like that's hard for me to sit with. So over the years, I've become a huge advocate of public education. Huge. I mean, I think it goes into that community feeling, but also letting these kids know, at least at my university, you don't have to know what you're doing. It's insane for anyone to think, again, earlier conversation, that a high school student would know what they want to do for the rest of their lives. I eventually got into art school to do graphic design because the money was there. Haha, no, sculpture. Like I got that conversation with things, but it's to really just show them what it is and to spark their curiosity. And then when they are interested, they contact me and I work with them one-on-one to help walk them through. I think we need a hand to hold. We need community.
Yeah.
We need a sense of these are the people looking out for me and to help them in their journey.
Well, I think now more than ever, that's been a common theme too. You know, we have to rely on one another. And things are getting more local, more regional, less federal, let's say maybe, support-wise. I like that. I also wanted to add too, I thought studying sculpture may not be safe from digital takeover.
Right.
Yeah.
3D printing, right?
Yeah.
But I did want to touch on too, Matt, do you think you could speak a little bit as someone who specializes in transferring, you know, that idea of, you know, you can catch them young, you can catch them in middle of careers, reskilling, looking for something new or different. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, that journey from I'm at one place studying, I'm looking for something else, or moving back and forth between, you know, campuses, schools, what have you?
Sure, Brett. So a little background here. I work at the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design in their admissions office, been there 14 years. For about the past 12 of those years, I have specialized in transfer and non-traditional enrollment. So I work with all of our students who have gone to college or started college somewhere else. And I absolutely love that. And part of the reason I love it is for them, how to make this not sound silly, because it's like, that was a very important part of their education. It just wasn't necessarily the part of their education that like linearly connected with the degree they might end up getting at my ed. Embrace the zigzag. See, look at that. It's everywhere. And you also said something else. You said something, I wrote it down and now I'm going to misquote it, but a false sense of failure. I think that you said. So a lot of times I will work with students who have started doing one thing and it just didn't work out or it wasn't the right fit. And they might feel bad about that. And that might kind of take away take some wind out of their sails about the next step. And again, it's kind of my job. And because of the experience I have of working with students in that position to be like, no, that was ideal. Because what you've done is you've solved a creative problem. You went through something. You've now had the opportunity to think about it critically, kind of reorganize things a little bit and realize there's something else that's a better fit for me. And at the end of the day, if you work in admissions, that's what it's all about. It's like, yes, you want students to go to your school. That helps. That's good. But you want students to go to your school for the right reason. Okay. And we meet mostly high school students, nothing wrong with that. And some high school students do know exactly what they want to do, or they think they know exactly what they want to do. And I just don't think that I don't want anyone to think that there is any issue whatsoever in starting somewhere or starting multiple places. And maybe the main thing you gleaned from that experience is that you might do better in a different type of school. Because again, that was part of your education. It gets a lot deeper than that. Obviously, I'm going to start talking to you about credits and what your program looks like. And, that's all well and good. I guess long story short, there's people like me at colleges all over this country to help you figure that out. But it is absolutely a viable way to be successful as a college student. And I don't have the exact data, but I do think, I'm going to say think, that'll be my safe word here, that a lot of our transfer students tend to finish their degrees perhaps at a higher rate than some of our first time students, because again, they just had that additional experience, that additional maturity, and that ownership over the choice they made.
I appreciate that a lot, and that's something we do at AWE, and something we really pride ourselves on. Is we understand that not everybody who works with us as a teaching artist is going to pursue teaching artistry or art education, right? And that's by design, because we'd rather be that stop on someone's journey that says, I like creativity, I like visual arts. Let's try doing it in a park with children.
Yeah.
That's a different experience. That's a different equation.
Yes.
I'd rather have you do that than to invest in an art education degree or pursuing this in a different way. So part of this design too for Painted Forward for the series is that we want to introduce people to people, right? And the fact that it can be intimidating. I know when I first started working in college admissions, which I did for 8 years, that's something I didn't disclose or divulge, but that's how I met a lot of these great people. I was surprised at how deadlines, at least in some contexts, weren't early deadlines. Or, hey, this deadline's on a Sunday, so what happens if it shows up on a Monday? Does anyone care? There's flexibility sometimes. Don't pay your bills late. I'm not saying that. But, call people up. Somebody's going to pick up the phone and say, hey, what's up? And you could say, can you tell me more?
Yeah.
This is your introduction to everybody here. If you want to shoot us an email, give us a call, say, can you tell me more? Because the only question that is the dumb question, as they say, is the one that doesn't get asked. I'm asking some of them for you all. We're having this conversation for the benefit of connecting people so that you learn that. Just like, going to a college, you test it out, doesn't work, I'll transfer somewhere else. Or try out a new job. Oh my gosh, this isn't what I thought it was. You're not stuck, and there's always room for movement, and there are people there to help you make those pathways, make those transitions.
Yeah.
The movement is sometimes a zigzag.
The movement, trademark, copyright.
That's right. That's right.
So, would you like to answer that?
I definitely would. I've been like on the edge of my seat because I'm very passionate about this question, and collaboration was kind of the foundational element that you all touched on. I'll kind of go into my experience as an alum. When I was a little young high school Kim, like my passion was the arts. I was dead set on being a filmmaker, but there is such an anxiety about pursuing that, because what if, knock on wood, it doesn't work out? And so I was very cautious as I was exploring all the colleges in Milwaukee and in the area, because if it didn't work out, what was going to happen to me? What was going to happen to my career? And that's how I found Alverno College. And I love that we all touched on collaboration, because that's really the root of the education at Alverno. What's super unique about that education is it's not just like letter grades. You get feedback and you work with your faculty and you develop yourself as a human being, that from the moment I stepped foot on that campus, I felt home. And it felt like a place that wasn't just going to transform me as an artist. It was going to transform me and revolutionize who I was as a human being. And I feel like that would be my advice to any young artist. Like, what opportunity is going to completely transform you and revolutionize you? That is going to be the right choice. There is not going to be a wrong choice in this. It's your journey. It's your zigzag. So you have to find what's going to make you feel whole.
The art we make are just artifacts.
Yeah.
It's like you're the artist.
Yeah.
It's got to come from somewhere,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I just
Yeah.
like what you threw down there.
Well, I love that too, because that's what I tell everybody, but especially young people, when they're like, I made this thing and it's so special and I don't want it to break and I don't want to touch it and it's perfect the way it is. I'm like, you can make a million of those because you're the artist, right?
Yeah.
This is the
Yep.
result of your art. And if you don't feel like you can make it again, just try it again, practice, develop those skills. You'll never lose it, right?
Yeah.
So thank you all for that. What I would like to dig into a little bit more too is where do you see, and I'm trying to keep things asset based too, but what type of student, what type of individual doesn't perform well in those pathways that you all offer, whether it's career placement, whether it's a specialty art design college, a university system. When would you, and I don't want to say when would you turn people down, turn them away, but when would you say pump the brakes a little bit, work on this sort of stuff and come back to me when you're ready or when it's that right moment for you? You don't have to answer. Feel free to take some time with it. I think I threw that one out of left field.
I think I can be quick. Stubbornness. stubbornness. We definitely have some students. And again, there's nothing, because you're gonna choose a direction. Again, I represent MyEd. Folks tend to come to our school because they are deeply passionate about something. But a lot of times that something, at least at that time in their creative development, is very specific. And there's no reason to go to our school, our sometimes expensive college, to spend 4 years doing the same thing or just kind of developing the same idea. And it can sometimes be hard to get some of these students who have really identified a very specific goal and a very specific way of working to expand a little bit, especially when, say, it's like, this is Milwaukee, and Milwaukee's great. I love this place. I've lived here most of my life now. But it's also true we're not Hollywood. It's also true we're not New York. So part of our job as a college is to make sure that we expose you to a breadth of skills so you can find opportunities to be successful. And if you're, again, kind of locked into one thing, you're closing creative opportunities off to you.
And just to kind of piggyback off that, there are educational contexts for that, with like ateliers, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. The individual artist who will take on an artist or two in their studio, very traditional, and you'll really dig into those things. So again, not saying there's anything wrong with that, but also I think it paints a clearer picture of what an art school is or can be, or what these opportunities are. That it is about expanding your opportunities and diversifying your abilities, not just like you're going to paint that thing over and over again until it's the best thing ever. And yeah, nothing wrong with that, but can be a little narrowing, might not be as curricular or academic as what.
Yeah. And when you give yourself 2-3 years of skill building and experience, you're going to find your way back to that It's like that passion's not going to go away. You're going to find your way back to it with a much bigger vocabulary, much more context in order to maybe have some more success with it.
And also, I'll add to that, when you think about, again, building out that context in the job market, we talked about the zigzag and we talked about the vertical climb. Also, there was a thing, right, where we were told for so many years that there's like 5 professions to choose from only: a lawyer, a doctor, a police officer, a teacher, and a firefighter or something. But the world of work is so vast. And so I think too, when we think about somebody that may underperform, is someone who, again, like Matt said, is a little bit more narrow-minded, because they're being narrow-minded in a sense creates this panic. This performance under panic. You take away so many different options that you have, and you isolate to this one thing, and then you operate in panic because you have to be successful because you've given yourself no other option. And so instead of folks who perform poorest under that panic, to be more open, to understand that these are the things I like to do that give me passion. These are the things that I'm good at. These are the interests that I have that I'd like to develop. And what I love about Manpower Group with our candidacy, what our recruiting style is, that we can either place you with a job or we can prepare you for a job. And some of that preparation through a number of our brands, particularly Right Management, is career coaching. Kind of asking, what do you love to do? What are you good at? Here's your resume review. And this actually can lean into that. And so when you think about that, sometimes it's just changing that person's mind into just expanding the opportunity that they see for themselves, and then connecting that with their interests so that they're not so panicked on the success of this one thing that if it goes wrong, all else is just failed, And so that's important for how you perform well.
Yeah.
Keep your options open.
And I like to connect that to that idea of the self-reflection that comes with creativity in the arts, whether it's gardening and you're thinking through things, or yoga and mindfulness practice, or sitting and drawing. We all find it different ways, but knowing yourself and kind of where you fit. There are those folks that will tell you the best path to success is to remove all of your safety nets, right? Do or die. Like, I gotta do that one thing.
Yeah.
That might work for some people. I don't know. I know more people whose anxiety and fear comes from a defensive standpoint of like, I got to do this because this is what my degree is in, or I got to do this because this is what my ancestor, my granddad, my dad, what have you. Or I think this is the only thing I'm good at, without going through that assessment. That idea too, that, when's the last time someone asked you, like, what do you like?
Yeah.
What's your
Yeah.
favorite color? Did you enjoy
Yeah.
that? You know, like
Yep.
you might nail the speech at work and the meeting or the presentation or what have you, and someone like, that was good.
Yeah.
You did
Yeah.
great.
Yep.
I liked that, versus this wasn't working out and why didn't you do this? There's a lot of context where we don't give ourselves that room for growth and for
Absolutely.
nurturing, I guess.
Yeah. And also too, there that really when you narrow, oftentimes when that focus is so narrowed that way, you begin to speak in that manner. And so instead of putting out into the atmosphere, putting into yourself all the possibilities, you are saying, I will achieve only this one thing. I will achieve nothing else except this one thing. And so even if you achieve it or when you achieve it, then you're like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
And if you struggle in achieving it, then there's this obligation, there's this embarrassment. Then that's when you really begin to feel that, again, that false sense of failure, because you're like, I told my parents I was going to do this. I told my spouse I was going to do this. I told all my friends I'm going to do this. Now I have to go back and explain to everybody that I didn't do what I said I was going to do, when you're still doing it. You're still becoming. And if it's a zigzag that you're doing, you're still doing that. Pivot and move on.
Yeah.
And so I think that, again, is why it's important to be focused, to be on a path, but also don't be so narrow, because we're doing a wider thing than that one thing that we might be drilling down on, I guess.
And I think for younger folks or less experienced folks in industry or in a market, right? Those things can seem very sure. They can seem like this is going to sustain me or this is going to be sustainable, and then the world changes, technology changes. You got to shift, you got to pivot.
Yeah.
So if you can be ready for it, right, and know that sculpture at some point will become digital, and the thing you thought would be your thing maybe wasn't.
Yeah.
You're going to be better prepared.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree.
I feel like this has been so good. I don't know if I have too much to add, but I will say, Brett, as you were speaking to like self-assessment and getting that feedback at work, I do have to plug. That's a big foundation of Alverno College. Is in every course, in every class, instead of those letter grades, you do get feedback from your professors. Sometimes a page, sometimes more. So even when I received an A, I would say, like in my brain, it wasn't just A, okay, move on. It was, Kim, this was amazing. Here's what you can do next time. So it was constantly improvement upon myself. And on top of that feedback, you also did self-assessments. So I had to take the opportunity to put that little plug in there, because Alverno College does offer that kind of curriculum. So if that's what's vibing with you and that's where you see your transformation, that's all I have to say about that.
Well, and I like that too, because I was just thinking as this was being discussed, that those are skills to be developed, right?
Yeah.
And the access to or the privilege of having environments where these things are the standard operating procedure, right?
Yeah.
And I would always hear the stories from my dad of getting whacked on the knuckles with a ruler if you didn't do the thing right, or if you were misbehaving or whatever, and that type of stuff changes and evolves. But it takes time for things to flow, and sometimes things backtrack, and depending where you are, what environment you come up in, that idea of self-reflection, that idea of self-assessment, that idea of hearing those voices and talking yourself through those things may not be present. So finding a curriculum or finding a coach who can provide those things or who can support that might be what it is you need to thrive, to flourish, to help you deal with those changes.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you for that, Glenn.
Yeah.
I got whacked on the hand in drawing class. I told I sucked. It happened. It happened. We can talk later. You could probably guess. But UWM also, we give grades, at least in my classes. It's so much more about the feedback and the specificity of it. You're not critiquing that something's good. You're breaking down exactly what it is that makes it good and how does that open up. But in terms of students or adult students or returning students or veterans looking at our university, we are very liberal in our admission policy. We want students to come. We are an access institution, so we want everyone who wants to come to be able to come. Anyone in the community who is a first-generation college student, the university will provide 100% tuition for it. It is one of our things. We want to allow education for everybody because we believe in education. The reality is, though, not everybody's ready when they get to college. If it's because they don't know exactly what they want to do, or if it's because they were a COVID baby or have issues with a learning disability that hasn't been diagnosed yet. And for me, the two factors that I see most, and this is my individual view with my students, are the ones when it goes back to your creativity, because I think sometimes what works with creativity or what is the opposite is to analyze. Sister Karita Kent, John Cage were famous in saying, do not create and analyze at the same time. They're different processes. Students go to school, and sometimes school can be detrimental. You know, sometimes you have to shake off what you went through to figure out where you are or to know where to position yourself. Students who come in and either are critiquing themselves constantly or comparing themselves to others, or faculty are critiquing them and they don't have the confidence or the belief in themselves, that's where I see them crumble. So I think it is leaning into the creativity, embracing the joy, reminding everyone why we are here, because that's the fuel that's going to drive us. Because it's not easy. It's not easy in the first semester. It's not easy in 4 years. It's not easy when you're getting a job. Maybe I should come to you for career counseling and figure that out.
We got you. Don't you worry.
But it is that love, and it's that ability to say creativity is everything that is the drive. And I, as an educator, have to remind myself that it is not my job to squelch that, but it is to promote it and celebrate it while fine-tuning it, while making them better, while allowing that safe space for that conversation to happen. And we can see it. Again, it's listening. I can see when I've pushed too hard and it's like, oh, no. Okay, we need to have a conversation about this because I want to cultivate this and make sure you believe in yourself.
I love that. And it kind of leads into that idea, a topic that I'd like to discuss in a fun way in just a moment because we have time, that every institution, organization, individual, right, has personality, has a culture, has a way of doing things. So what I'd like to ask is, what's the best way to figure out what you're stepping into? You know, so if I'm a young person who's going to be getting involved with Maya or Manpower, and I don't mean young person, like I said young person, but anyone who's stepping foot for the first time into these organizations, Alverno, UW-Milwaukee, what vibe check would they get, right? I think I'm using that term correctly.
I love that you use that term.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it. And the fun part of that question is, feel free to connect it to an animal. We talked about favorite animals.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay, wait. I was ready. I was ready. I was ready until you threw in the animal. Now I have to think.
Start with that and then maybe we'll come back to animals. I thought that the first one would be the harder one, but the animals, it could be a hybrid or mythological creature by the way.
No, now you just made it even.
Sorry.
You just asked the Jim Henson creative
Yeah,
that it
she'd
can
be a
be anything. And I'm like, whoa.
Let's get the vibe
Okay,
check.
let's get the vibe
Back
check.
to the creatures.
I think, and this is what really made Alverno stand out to me when I was searching for my colleges, is it's a sense of community. You are going to know every person's name and they are going to know your name. You are not just going to be a number. The classrooms are set up. It's not desks. It's not rows. It's tables. It's so collaborative. It's so embracive. It's so inclusive that the second that I stepped foot on campus, I didn't even make it to the first office. I think 5 or 6 people said, "Good morning. How are you?" I said, "I'm new here." So it's just that type of environment that if you thrive in a place that is going to know your name, is going to know your journey, is going to know your passions. I mean, here I am. It's almost 6 years after I graduated, and Alverno specifically reached out and said, "Kim, you're back in Milwaukee? Come work for us." That is the environment that Alverno cultivates, is they are constantly looking for ways, even outside of the university, opportunities for you to grow. It's a family, as cheesy as that sounds. Animal, I'd say a unicorn, because it's a lot. Oh, it can be all of ours, because I feel like all of our places and
I'm not
are
a unicorn.
unique. Okay, I'll be interested to hear yours. But like that being that is so magical, so unique, so out there, that when you stumble upon it, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this could exist. And there it is standing in front of you. And you're like, this is where I'm meant to be. Again, I want to fully disclose Alverno may not be the fit for everyone, and that's okay. I can speak to it because I'm an alum. And of course, I loved my experience. But when you step foot on campus, you'll know and you'll have your answer right there. And then if you are on campus, come find me. I'm in admissions.
I'll take it. I'll tell you a short story. I love the vibe at Manpower Group. Manpower Group, again, is a global staffing company, but we have a number of brands. And my journey into Manpower Group was a bounce around those brands. I started at another company that was in the financial industry during the first bubble burst in 2007. And so as part of our part of our severance, so to speak, we were afforded outsourcing, which is Right Management. That's the brand. So in that career coaching and some of the, what are you going to be when you grow up? How do you redefine yourself when you've lost your job kind of thing? We answered that and we were able to be thoughtful about that. And that was so impactful for my next step. Then a number of us were kind of internally invited to apply, so to speak. And I became a project manager consultant for Manpower for Experis, which is our professional brand. And so this went from exposure to Right Management to Experis. And I was a project manager. And instead of one of our 100,000 clients around the world, Manpower Group headquarters was my client. And so I stayed at headquarters, did a couple of projects for them, and I just loved the culture. I love the culture because it was so inclusive. It was so, it was just very much, it was professional, but it was very casual. It was very kind of like come as you are. And because our business is people, placing people with jobs, it's just the culture and the vibe is very much so that people matter. And even in our human resource department is called People and Culture because it's what matters. And so then after being a consultant for Experis, the next opportunity, was with another client. And I actually said, no, I love this so much. I will wait for the next project here at headquarters. And then the next project wasn't through Experis, it was through Manpower, which is our staff, just our kind of, which is our staffing, which was not necessarily the IT or the more professional consultation. So then I worked for Manpower and did another project there. And I said, I'll take this position, even though all things considered, I'll take it because that's how much I was digging the vibe of the culture. And then ultimately I'm like, you know what, here's the deal, guys, find me a position. I want to work here. Like, I want to be permanent. And then ultimately I found a permanent position in North American operations and worked for Manpower Group, the umbrella company. That's the four. And so, and then we also have TAPFIN, which is a managed service provider where we can actually in-house or outsource your human resource department for you. All that to say, so all the brands of Manpower Group are just phenomenal brands that come together and make up the group, Manpower Group. And they're all a vibe. And so as a consultant, originally a consultant, I bounced around and said, you know what do I got to do to stay here with you all? Because I loved it that much. And it appreciates people. And that's been the difference for me. Oh, goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. Oh my gosh, animal. That's so, it's so interesting. I was literally just thinking like the feline. And that's because, I'm always joking with my husband, and what I love about my marriage, shout out to my husband, 25 years next year, we're planning a big party. But I always say, what I love about him is he's such a lion. He's such a leader, but he lets me be a feline. He lets me lead in certain ways. He lets me be a hunter and bring back in certain ways. He lets me be really, really soft and sensitive with him. But then again, I am a lion, and so, thank you for that. And then, lions really care about community. They are not only a leader, but they are who are responsible for the pack, but they also care for their surrounding and care for the balance of all the things under which their environment and their community includes. And so definitely a feline. Thank you for that. That's right. That's right. Manpower Pride. I love that. I love that. Let's go. Manpower Group Pride. You better believe it. That's right. That's right. We're taking that one too. Trademark.
So community is like just hugely important word, and I think it's especially important when you are coming from a smaller school. I don't have my research. I don't know the total undergrad there at Alverna, but MIAD's like between 700 and 800 students, and we're all in one building. So one of our professors, I think in our fine arts program, said years ago, and I never forgot it. It's like, do not go to MIAD if you want to be anonymous. This is the wrong kind of community if you just want to kind of get through unnoticed and do your work and sort of be in a vacuum, because it can't be avoided. We are quite literally all in the same 245,000 square foot warehouse together every day. You're in the same building as the president. You're going to see him on the elevator. If you're there in the summer, you're going to see him in the studios making art because he's one of us. It's like we are a community of learners. Obviously we're a college, but we're a creative community. Everybody comes here for the same reason. It's why I'm still there. Gosh, I moved to, again, I love Milwaukee. It just looks gorgeous out there right now from Kansas City, because I got really excited by this idea of a creative community that I thought I could be part of. And basically I never left. I spent 4 years getting my degree. There was kind of a year gray area. I did some stuff with AWE. So this is a great organization. And I've been there ever since. And so, yeah, for some, it's a community that really keeps you. Another thing I would say, and this is also a quote that I think we printed actually in our catalogs for years, you might recognize it. It's about the first year experience. It's about when you're a freshman at MIAD. So when you're a freshman at our school, you don't have a major yet. You're doing a little bit of everything. And we say, assume nothing, try everything. And it just feels so good to tell that to students, especially students who, we kind of talked about maybe narrowing focuses or just sort of the oppression of what am I going to do with this and what's the value. As long as you can, and I'll try to expand this to other communities and other schools now, as long as you can find a place where you think you can have a fit there, that the community feels right, that there's a major or majors that you can see yourself in. Most colleges are going to have some form of a first year experience or general studies year. Treat that first year like that. Assume nothing, try everything, become a good student, become a good member of that community. So then as your skills and experiences are growing, as you're moving through your program of study, you can really start kind of building that independent visual identity, that independent creative vocabulary that's going to allow you to then sustain your creative practice outside of that community. And the great thing is you can still benefit from them too when you're gone. Animal. Okay. So I'm thinking bird. I'm not an ornithologist, so I'm not going to get my facts super correct here, but around MIAD, we're right on the river. So we have a lot of those swallows that make those mud nests, and they're just flying around like crazy. So perhaps a little too aggressive for what I'm trying to say, but I think I'm reaching for like social birds, because they can both build these communities and interact and provide for each other, but they can also just go and fly and get quite literally a bird's eye view of things. So I'm going to say the swallow, or maybe like a house finch or house sparrow, because they're perhaps maybe a little calmer. I don't know. It's like us in our studios. When I hear all of those birds in the what do you call those bushes? There we go, making a bunch of noise. It reminds me of the studios at MIAD. So there you go.
I'm never gonna walk by a flock of birds and not have some sort of thoughts about the school.
Swallows are actually a really good omen to have. That's why sailors would get them tattooed, because it meant they were almost home. So when you see a swallow, you're home, and they're also very protective of their community. So if you ever have a swallow nest, keep it there. It's a good harbinger.
We've got some new mascots all around.
Yeah. So sort of opposite of MIAD, we are not one solid industrial warehouse. We do have one for our graduate faculty and regular faculty, graduate students, and upperclassmen, but we are really a sprawling urban campus. And I think the way I could really describe us is kind of like Milwaukee itself. We have these different neighborhoods. We have Bayshore, East Side, Harambee, Bronzeville, River West, And that's kind of how our campus is. We have where the art classes are, we have where architecture is, we have the women's studies, we have the international, and each has its own sort of feeling, for me, really based visually off of architecture. That's sort of how I feel things. I, of course, know the art area the most because that's where I am. I work in a basement in a very, rough and tough sculpture yard. And I think if I could give a spirit animal, we would be squirrels, all running around like crazy, all doing a task, but with like little blue collar workman suits on. So you think of Willy Wonka, all the squirrels are doing their stuff, but we are dressed like blue collars, because we're all very active, sometimes in a maniacal, crazy way, doing everything. But we do, we're all Research One artists. So we have our practice, we have our teaching. I'm individually helping every high school student who has a question. But that's what our promise is to do, to be there for those kids. So we're crazy squirrels with long fingernails running around trying to get nuts.
I love that answer. I thought you were going to say jaguars because isn't that the.
I don't do that. I don't like that.
We don't
That's
like
like
that. We're bringing squirrels.
squirrel. And there's always squirrels on campus.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Just a disclaimer, please don't anyone go out and try to capture a squirrel and make your own costume for it. If you're in taxidermy,
There is an artist up north. There's an amazing bar and it's all taxidermies. I can share that with you later too.
All right. Well, I appreciate this conversation. I think we could go on for another hour, but we are at closing time. We do like to open it up for questions. I think we have more time for that if anyone would like to answer or ask any specific questions of anyone, general questions. If you are watching this live, feel free to type a question into the chat. I think that's how people do it these days, like use Neuralink to think it if you're that cool. Okay. But we're trying to see if you want some individual time and attention for our guests. You're also welcome to reach out. My email address is on our website, Brett, B-R-E-T-T, @awe-inc.org. You can connect and we'd be happy to put you in touch. Any questions for us before we wrap up? Questions, comments? You can also stick around and ask things individually if you don't want to be on camera.
There's many quotes that my daughter says, but the one that I like, because I am of the period where you do everything yourself, you have to learn everything. To some degree, you're a master. What they say, you're jack of all trades, and master of none. Kind of like that. Well, my daughter says things like this, which tickles me, but it's so true. She says, and this is specifically for one job, so she can tell me now what she meant. And that what she says is, AI is not taking your jobs. It's the people who know how to do AI and who are trained to do AR that will take your job. Because my sister and I need to go to the library and learn how to use the telephone. Our telephones is ridiculous.
Thank you for that. And just to paraphrase a bit too, the idea that there was a time, there was a generation of to do everything yourself, that self-reliance, that kind of like maybe a little bit of stubbornness. I'm an only child too, so I can relate to that. I'm like the guy holding all the stuff, holding the door with my foot, right?
Yes.
And then the other quote, master or jack of all trades, master of none, sort of thing. But bringing that back to that AI, that technology, and centering the individual, centering that person that's at the heart of things and building those skills. And I love that perspective too, because I think that gets taught, or at least when I was in school, I know that was still the mentality of like, do it yourself, get it all done, asking for help. And sometimes I think that can be a bit of a gendered thing. I guess it depends on the culture, the family upbringing, right, of what that is. But that can be hard to get over. And then thinking about utilizing technology. Do you want to elaborate on that, Anitra, since that is a quote that you offered up?
It's so interesting that my mom would be the one to ask that question, because they're in those two different ways. That's a conversation that we've always had since I was really little, because I love everything. I'm a person that loves everything. But being a jack of all trades and a master of none, can sometimes, it's like a gift and it's like a tomato and a tomato, right? Folks can say that to you and say that to you to mean that you dibble and dabble in everything, but what are you good at? And that challenges us to narrow. And again, I'm not a big fan of narrowing because I just think as people, as creativity flows in us, I will narrow as needed. And that's kind of the way to pivot and stay and embrace the zigzag. I will narrow as needed. And then the other thing I'll mention is that, and I'm so glad Mom took it to heart. My mom is, I'll say 70 because you're fantastic and you're gorgeous and I love that. But I say that to say, you know, that's a generation that had to learn email. And email is so normal for us, but it's like to some people, email was like this thing that was really, really intimidating. And then it was the internet. And we know the internet so well. But for some people, that's a technology that came and just really took away what felt like their skill set. They knew how to do their jobs. They knew, and then now the internet comes in and everybody knows how to do their job. Or again, having that experience of being the person who was really, really good at that thing, kind of all knowing at that thing. And now Chat GPT or artificial intelligence, AI comes in. And now with a little bit of 5 seconds worth of investment in AI, and you can have a full recipe, you can have a full synopsis of anything. And so being that expert is like, man, as a human being, I might feel less important or less useful because AI can do my job. And so the quote you were trying to mention that I said because I heard somebody else say it, but I do agree with it, is that there's this fear that AI is going to take our jobs. AI is not going to take our jobs. Humans are always going to be needed. People who know how to use AI are going to take our jobs. So it's important to kind of, again, with Manpower Group, one of our giving pillars is upskilling, reskilling, removing barriers to employment. So that reskilling and that upskilling is so important because we have to lean into technology so that we're not the folks that are definitely afraid of email, definitely afraid of the internet. Now we're definitely afraid of AI. Got to lean in.
Well, and I think that speaks to too that idea of we've all been talking about the individuality and the person, but also the judgment, right? The judgment to say like, I need to do this, or I'm gonna narrow as needed, right? That's a boss comment. That's a quote.
The boss.
Yeah,
T-shirt.
but you know when, right? Because it's that judgment which comes from the experience, which comes from being broad-minded and trying a lot of different things and knowing like this is the place, this is the move to make, this is when I should pivot, this is when I should hold firm, this is when I should say, I need some help. So help me out with that email because let me tell you, I know a lot of things, whether it's based on fear or pride, you might not reach out and get the help that you need or connect with those people to support you.
Yeah. And that's why we're here.
You got it.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Anything coming in? Anyone have anything they'd like to hear more about?
I'm someone like as a creative where throughout my career, I've definitely had to embrace like pivoting and like, the zigzag and all of that, like what you guys are talking about. But I think something that I've been thinking a lot about is this whole, to me, it's kind of old school, but like that whole idea of having a 5-year plan, and I think it's something where, I think every generation has had a lot of hurdles and like a lot of unexpected things, for my generation and people younger than me, I feel like it's just something constant every single day, it feels like, and it's so hard to plan, and even with me working with kids, I've just noticed such a high level of apathy. And I can find it in myself sometimes too, where I'm like, sometimes I'll catch myself thinking like, oh, at this point, I'm just month to month or like, week to week. I guess I was just interested with you guys as professionals in your field. Do you believe in having something like a clear 5-year plan, or like what would be your advice to young professionals or creatives of like, how much do you plan? How much do you leave open for pivoting, or, like what's even just your ideology about that at this time of society changing so much?
While you're grabbing the mic, I'll answer that in 30 seconds. Everything you just said, do it all. Plan, pivot, embrace the zigzag. Plan, pivot, embrace the zigzag.
I say definitely, but as far as an artist and professional in the arts, I like to encourage a 1-year plan, a 5-year plan, and a 20-year plan, so that you're giving yourself potentially that opportunity to pivot if things change. But for me, a plan is symbolic of hope, that it gives you something to hold on to. It gives you something to look at. My friend sent me a meme the other day that was like, I finally found the light at the end of the tunnel, and it was a burning dumpster fire. And I was like, oh yeah. And that kind of sums it up every day. And kids are getting hit with it. I'm getting hit with it. You know, I'm sure as teachers in the studio, you feel it. And as much as we try to be umbrellas, some of that rain drips through. So it's very real that it's there, but it's not something that should defeat you, or you don't give it the power to defeat you. Acknowledge it, see it, talk about it, get it off, and still work towards that plan.
Yeah, I think as long as you don't lose sight of that conversation, as long as it's something that you're just able to, produce if you need to, even if it's just in here, even if it comes out, I don't know, more visually creative, as long as I think you're working that part of your mind, that planning part, that is seeing opportunities, making connections with your skills, with the network you're building, with the trajectory of your career, that's automatically going to kind of prime you to be in a position to act should you need to. And that's coming from someone who's worked at the same place for 14 years. But I never planned for that. I didn't expect that. And to be completely honest, it took me a while to embrace that. But what you can in the right situation be able to do when you're in a position like I was, is to give, again, kind of make sure that you're not closing yourself off to opportunities, that you're remaining open to opportunities, because I have developed sort of the right balance of things now in my career where I'm thrilled to being what I'm doing. And it took me, like I said, it took me a little while to sort of accept that, like, oh, it's okay that I'm going to do this for potentially 20 plus years. But it took me about 10 to figure that out. So again, I that's coming from a point of privilege. I was in a position where I could get to that point, but I definitely had some ups and downs that kind of helped me come back full circle to realize, oh, I'm where I need to be.
I think the only thing that I would add is kind of reflecting on my experience. I graduated right when COVID hit. So here I am. My 5-year plan was I'm going to walk across that stage. I'm going to have that career, and this big wall, unpredictable, popped up in front of me. And so everything that I had planned kind of had to take that halt. And so now this could sound very mindful and just kind of in that realm. But now when people ask me that question, like, what are you going to do in 3 years? What are you going to do in 5 years? I look them in the eyes and say, I'm going to be happy. Because if you can find your passion, if you can find your hope, that's what's going to keep you going. But I do think, not to echo, but just to kind of encourage, like, everything everyone set up here is true. Like, have that plan, have those. I liked how, I forgot your exact quote, but like having that plan be your hope, that's important. But as long as you're happy, you're on the right track.
I'd also add one other thing. I'd also add one other thing with regards to like 5-year plans and such. One thing we haven't talked about today is volunteerism. Well, as we're talking about work, or talk about collaboration and connection and some of that, when you find a thing that you're passionate about, volunteer. And here's why. As much as you can fit into your mind, into your body, into your being, in terms of contribution to the world, it will help you think about your 5-year, where you want to see yourself in 5 years. And it'll expand, because I think our careers and where we want to be in 5 years, our perspective is enlightened when we volunteer, because it is for the purpose of getting someone else to where they need to be, or the help that they need. And so I think so oftentimes that when we think about pivots or panic or what we can do, or if this doesn't work out, or if I don't get this job, what do I do in the meantime? Part of that connection with community is volunteering. And you'd be surprised, because volunteering does an interesting thing that corporate work doesn't do: skip level. When you are working corporately, you probably have most access to your supervisor, your manager, maybe 1, maybe 2 levels above. That second one's a stretch, probably. When you're volunteering, the CEO walks up to you and thanks you for your time. You got a little bit of face time. When you're volunteering, the program managers want to know exactly who you are. They walk up to you and they talk to you. And so, gear up your 30-second speech. Gear up your why. Make sure that you're in an organization, you're volunteering with passion so that when you begin to speak, you light up. So they can say, wait a minute, I met her. She was super cool. Tell me again what she does. Tell me again what she, So volunteering is a way to connect your future with the community. And it has a reciprocity thing that happens and you're plugging in also.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would just like to add, and I know we're way over, but volunteering is also something to do when you're at your lowest. I think in my personal life, when I've been as low can be and I volunteer, doesn't matter if it's a Special Olympics or a food shelter, that picks me up more so than going into my studio ever could. So yes to volunteering.
I'm a little misty-eyed. This is really good stuff. We are going over, and I think we got the clearance if y'all are ready to keep going. If we have any more questions? Anyone else? We're all good? Okay. Well, before we go, I wanted a little extra time too, because in the spirit of what we're discussing today, we're talking about other people, we're talking about opportunities and helping guide people. So I've got a final that I'd like everyone to answer. Doesn't have to be in a specific order, but I'd like to give you a chance to plug what it is you do, whether it's your personal thing, a message that you want to share. Not everybody gets a chance to reach out, whether it's, to 5 people watching, or maybe, 10 years from now, this goes viral and it's like 1 million people.
Because of Trust the Zigzag. That's where we're going to go viral.
Right. That's right.
Someone's going to ask AI, where did this originate?
This lady who loves her city.
So take this platform, plug whatever it is you want, whether it's yourself and your own side hustle or your organization or a volunteer cause you're passionate about, a message. The other thing I'd like you all to share is what is at least one thing that you are most proud of that you have done in your work. We're keeping it to the creative career pathways and stuff. So personal life can be work too. I think everybody would be like, oh, my kids or whatever. I love my son. He's watching Murphy. I'm shouting out to you.
That's right.
But I want you to get selfish with this. So what have you brought to your work that you can stamp and say, I came up with that slogan? Or others, right?
Okay. All right, here comes the plug. I do work at the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design. We are a private, nonprofit, specialized college of visual art and design. 4 years, Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. We've been MIAD, since basically 1974, and our predecessor college goes back to 1920, 1921, right around there. And I just think it's really, really cool that there's been a nonprofit creative institution in the city of Milwaukee for that long that speaks multitudes to this city and its support of creativity. So I just think that's awesome. If you think that's awesome, our application is free. And it's just a matter of getting a portfolio together, which we in admissions help you do, submitting your transcript. And again, we're here to also help you figure out if it's the right fit. I kind of made some jokes about cost. We're a private college, but honestly, the more effort you put into that application, the more effort you put into your grades. If you get involved in things like pre-college as a high school student, that cost can just keep coming down. So it's kind of like that assume nothing, try everything sort of thing. And I would say that about any college. Put yourself out there first, and later, much later in the process, when all those numbers start coming your way, then you'll have a better idea if it's a good fit for you. My accomplishment's going to connect with this career as well, because again, I've been doing it for 14 years and it's, I'm not stuck there. I love it. And what I love is I meet 100+ creative, passionate, excited people every year. And I get to welcome 30, 40, 50 of those students to this community that I love every year. And then I keep going to that place every day and I watch them develop and I watch them graduate. And I've done it long enough now that some of them have had careers for 10+ years. So gosh, my LinkedIn is something I'm really proud of because it keeps me connected, right? It's keeping me connected to all of these stories that I got to play this little role in. And that, I'm not saying I created that, but I got to participate in that exchange of creativity. And that brings me so much meaning. All right.
I love that. I love that. I will say that I introduced myself initially as Anitra Riley, right? Who worked for Manpower Group, and I manage community impact, and that is essentially all things volunteerism, all things charity, all things community outreach. I'm also very proud to mention that Manpower Group Foundation supports MyEd. Manpower Group Foundation supports AI at UWM. And Anitra, the person, right, also is planning chair for Black Arts Fest, which is one of the United Ethnic Festivals that occurs on Summerfest grounds. So when you think about Polish Fest, Irish Fest, Mexican Fiesta, Italian Fest, and so on, I am planning chair for Black Arts Fest. And I say that to say that for several years, Alverno sent us a fantastic volunteer team that hosted our kids and family area. And so when you just think about someone who is a professional corporately, but is a person within the community, we can touch the collaboration that one person can have is amazing. And so just walking into a room on a panel, and also AWE. AWE we have provided support for AWE at Manpower Group Foundation, and particularly I personally kind of brought that forward because if you think about art, it's like, well, is that really an employment program? And the idea of just the cognitive sense of building that confidence, building that creativity, unlocking the solution thinking of creativity, what that trajectory does to prepare a student, a young person, to unlock problem solving, that absolutely lends to a whole person being hopefully, I don't know, being whole in order to, I don't know about that one, being whole and able to contribute into the world of work. And so I love that. And for me, what I am most proud of is being a part of community. I think that there's a saying that is taking care of folks is beyond my four and no more. You know, when we think about our family, it's like taking care of our family is what's important. If you just expand a little bit, taking care of community, if we took care of each other in the community the way that we take care of our families, we'd solve some problems. We would get some stuff done. And so I'm very proud to be a part of a community. In Manpower Group, as I mentioned, not only do I run our foundation and all of our charity and all of our volunteerism and such, but I also am very proud that Manpower Group is in 72 countries, around 72 countries. And worldwide, we have over 500,000 people working every day. And we have over 100,000 clients. And so when I say to people, because the world is so small and we all travel these days, I say, wherever you want to work, whoever you want to work for, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to be when you grow up, at whatever age that is that you grow up, right? Into that age, right? Manpower Group can help you find a career that fits. And I'm very proud to be a part of that solution.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, and then one other thing.
Oh, period.
And then also
Trust the
too,
zigzag.
and also too, as I mentioned, I'm also planning chair for Black Arts Fest. The reason why that's really important to me is because one of the main questions that I get about Black Arts Fest is, you know, why is it so specific? You know, why is it just celebrating the Black people? And why is it this? And it's so important for folks to understand that community and diversity just is. It's not a thing that anybody invites. It's not even a thing that you accept. It is a thing that is already. And so being a part of a greater community, United Ethnic Festivals, which is a program ran by Milwaukee World Festivals, which is i.e. Summerfest, right? Celebrates all ethnicities, you know, celebrates all cultures. And as I mentioned, and I don't want to miss anyone, but you've got Polish Fest, Irish Fest, German Fest, Mexican Fiesta, Italian Fest. Even Pride Fest is recognized as one of our United Ethnic Festivals. And so when I think about Black Arts Fest, it's just another celebration of culture. And just to have all of the people that are of that culture be and feel seen and celebrated is such a big deal. And then to invite other cultures. You came down with your family, Brett. That meant so much to me. Had a great time and we just vibed out all day. And I have visited Irish Fest, Polish Fest, German Fest, and learned so much and enjoyed so much and bought their jewelry. Because that's a thing for me. And
You're bookending it. It's
but
your fashion.
again, what I also love about community is it's not just my four and no more. We get to explore each other, and we get to really experience diversity in a way that helps us to understand I don't have to accept diversity. It is already. So I better lean into it.
I appreciate that. And I also want to say too that there are other ways of being, right, that come from different perspectives. And I know one of the things we all share is our personal perspectives, but then there's cultural perspectives and there's other families, right? Everybody has that experience. You go to your friend's house and like, oh, did the shoes go on or off? Or like, do I eat that? Or is that, like just like a decoration? Is that fruit bowl real? I don't know. I'm hungry. That's a family story. I can share that later. But point being, offering those specific opportunities to bring people together. Milwaukee is a hyper-segregated city.
Yes.
So people don't always know that you can go different places, see different things, connect with different people until maybe you're invited to a panel discussion or whatnot, right? So bringing people together in ways is really important. And that's the type of work I think that we're all doing virtually and or in person. So appreciate that.
Okay. Woof. So I'll just say, because I've kind of touched on it a lot, how much Alverno meant to me. But Alverno College, similar to my 4-year institution, we also offer a master's program. I specifically work in the admissions department. I'm the graduate adult transfer admissions counselor. So if you fit into those buckets, hey, please reach out to me. I would love to talk. But to keep Alverno brief, it's inclusion, it's diversity, it's home, it's peace, it's transformative. It is going to revolutionize your life. I think that would be my pocket statement for what Alverno can provide for you. And then looking at myself as a creative and my most proud accomplishment, when I was a student, I actually went and studied abroad in Italy, and I received 2 scholarships to make a documentary of the entire trip abroad. So that was a 2-hour documentary, and I was confident that was going to be my breakaway into the film industry. You know what? Maybe in a different universe, but it is on YouTube if you wanted to check it out. And that was just an amazing experience I was able to have because of Alverno College.
How do we find it on YouTube?
So you can follow me at Kim Otzelberger. It could be quoted as Bearheart Productions, which was what I was going as a lot of my college career. I have a lot of YouTube videos on there. Some have been privated. If you ask me nicely, I might share them with you. That one is still public though. So a lot of my short films or films that I was creating were still public on my YouTube channel.
All right. I teach at UW Milwaukee's Peck School of the Art. Peck School of the Art is the state's only comprehensive public art school, meaning we offer bachelor's degrees in dance, theater, film and animation, music, and art and design. Within art and design, which is where I teach and what I know, we offer a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Fine Arts, Bachelor of Fine Arts with art education, handful of minors, certificates, and then obviously you have the option to double major or major minor. Our applications are also free. And again, if you are going to be a first generation student, look into the Tuition Promise, Wisconsin Tuition Promise. We do not require a portfolio for admission. If you are admitted to the university, you are automatically welcome into art and design. We do offer scholarships. I will review your portfolio for those, so Brett can put you in contact with me. Through my work with AP over the years, I adore looking at high school art. It's how I connect with students. So step into my world and I will grab a hold of you and not let you go. Which comes to my, I think, most proud moment. And I'm definitely one of these people who tries to look at pebbles or stones and how we can build those up to make a mountain. And so I believe it was Mother Teresa who had this beautiful quote of throwing a rock into a body of water and hoping the ripples take into effect, because it is a very hard place. We need to love each other. We need to support everyone. We need to start leaving with love. But my most proud moment right now is tonight, because one of my former students told me that I made a difference. And I think it's really those things that lift us up. It's not a big giant thing, but it's knowing that I made a difference in one person's life who is now here making a difference in hundreds of little kids' lives, which is just the start. And that's what it's about.
Thank you all so much. Do you have something to add?
I did, but I feel like I can't add it now because that was such a beautiful ending. But I'm so glad that you mentioned that your applications are free because I totally blanked. Alvernals are too. So if you are looking at any of these 3 institutions, check it out. Free applications.
And you can apply at mathhighergroup.com for free as well.
Trust the zigzag.
Our applications are free also.
I got it.
Thank you all so much. And I feel the need to say, if you're interested in volunteering with AWE, if you're interested in hiring AWE, or if you're interested in working with AWE, we're constantly connecting with people. We don't always have time to hire people up every single season, but we'll get a hold of you. It's free.
Creativity is also free.
Amen, amen. And this conversation originally was, I was originally planning to have more specific questions about, what are your applications like? What are your strongest programs? But I'm really happy that we were able to provide this more global advice that any person can use, whether you're, thinking of changing careers, thinking of going back to school, or just wanting to think of yourself, how you live in the world, how you exist, how you connect with creativity more broadly. So I feel like you're in good hands with any of these fine folks up here. If you do have those specific questions, feel free to get in touch with us, Brett, B-R-E-T-T at awe-inc.org. I had to picture it in my head first. You can also go to our website, awe.org, to find more information. Thank you so much for the extra bonus time to the Washington Park Media Center, for all that you do to host us, to spread this out, to get everybody connected in this way. This is truly a hub of creativity for the media arts and the areas of media arts training and advising that happens here too. So again, if that's your passion, if those are the skills you need to build, if those are the things that you need to support your work and what you do, hit them up as well. We're all interested in making sure that the individual, that the work that you're doing is amplified, that you do the best for the people in the world and in your lives, whether that's employment, college, or just doing good things and creating those ripples throughout the community. So we'll wrap it up. Let's give ourselves or each other a round of applause. Thank you. And we'll catch you next time for even more discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.